How do you believe, and what's your views on how the most effective way to approach bursary spend?
Okay, so the first thing is to not leave the bursary spend for the last 2 months. And the reason I say this is because I have a couple of clients who really literally leave it for the last month. And bursary allocations is not a quick process. So I'm just going to take you through the process of bursary management. When a company says to me, we need to incur 500,000 Rand spend on bursaries, and the BE consultant would basically give what the gender and the races are that needs to be spent on. We then have to identify those learners. So either we would, there's other criteria the business would also give. So they might say, we're specifically looking for learners that we can give a bursary fund to, but we want them to be studying economics, or we want them to be studying digital marketing, or brand awareness. We want them to study specific qualifications. We have to find those learners, number one. Number two, what's very important, and companies don't realize this, is when you identify candidates, you have to get those candidates, first of all, you have to look at which year they're in their studies. So we generally try to not look at first year studies, because first years, it's first year. There's a lot of dropouts that happen during first year. Second year is ideal. Third year, fourth year, postgraduate are the best candidates, because you know that they are committed and that they definitely are looking to finish their qualification. So those are good bursary candidates. Also, if you're looking at your strategy, you've got on the screen their 3 to 5 year strategy. If you identify a learner in second year, for example, and they still maybe have another 2 years on their qualification, a company can ensure that for the next 2 years, they're actually providing the bursary for this learner for each year of their qualification left. So the company knows now we don't have to worry about bursaries. We've identified all our candidates are in their second years. They still have another 2 years left. So that's 2 years that we can cover, and we know we set for our bursary spend. I also just want to point out challenges that do arise with bursaries, which companies, I realize, don't look at. They automatically assume that the funding is spent. So we implemented a number of bursaries last year across 36 learners. And what was really shocking and almost gave me a heart attack is we always take it a step further. Yes, we tick in the box, the company gets the points for spending on the bursary. But we always want to find out the learner that's being funded. What is their vision? Where do they see themselves once they finish with their qualification? And this again feeds back into what we spoke at the beginning, is that it becomes part of your talent pipeline. So we found last year a situation where, when a learner is identified to be a potential candidate, the bursary agreement has to be then set up, and it has to be signed by the bursary, the candidate, and has to be signed by the company, obviously. We then have to make sure that we get a statement of account, because what we've picked up is that we would start engaging with the institution or engaging with the learner, let's say in the month of June, and these processes tend to take a bit long. So let's say by July, we now need to finalize everything. So we've already got the bursary agreement, but we didn't ask for a statement of account. And we only asked for the statement of account at the end of allocating the bursary. We have picked up where we found that there's been learners who have actually made payments to their accounts or gotten another funder to pay a portion into their bursary spend. And, this sort of disadvantages those that are really struggling in terms of financial difficulties. So it's very important to make sure that when you identify the learner to spend on, that you immediately also get the statement of account, so that you can pick up if that learner definitely is owing money. So very important, get the statement of account for the learner before you allocate the bursary, so that you can ensure that that learner definitely is owing money to the institution and has financial difficulties. Very important, once you've paid the institution, never pay the learner. Please never pay the learner. Pay the institution. Once you've paid the institution, companies tend to assume that everything is in order. But please go back and request another statement of account, so that you can see that the institution actually allocated that money to the learner. I've had situations where we've picked up that the institution didn't allocate the funding to the learner. So very important. And when you go for verification, if you're again with a very sharp verification agent, they will want to see proof that this funding did actually go to that specific learner. One of the other documents that's very important to get when you're identifying candidates to spend on, make sure that they are registered in your financial year, and get a letter from the institution indicating that they are registered on the institution's letterhead, indicating that they are registered for this particular financial year. Because we've picked up where learners received a funding, and when the verification agent asks for the proof that they actually registered on the qualification, and we go back to the institution, we find out that this learner didn't actually register for the next semester. So, these are things that's really important that companies need to look at.
We've had a learning journey when it comes to bursaries, because what we do is we have a database of learners at Red and Yellow who are looking for funding. So where I think it helps being the educational institution is when it comes to bursaries, is that we have all the students, all their folders, exactly what years they're in. So and we collect all of their documents prematurely, which I think what that does allow, and has been is quite beneficial, is we're able to have a very quick turnaround time when it comes to all the bursary documentation and getting everything sorted. So when it does come to companies, they're dealing directly with the university, that it does make the process just a little bit just a little bit smoother. So we have every single year, we bring on, as part of our social promise, 10% of our students don't pay for their own education, and then with that is we work to get them funding throughout the year, and that's really part of Red and Yellow social promise to grow education in South Africa. I mean, I just put these 3 points, just that, and then this is from a personal and a Red and Yellow perspective, is where I see not just making, getting the bursary spent right, but actually making the spend as impactful as possible. This is the dream, if we got all of it right. But I think that point 2 and 3 here are really important. But I'll speak to point 2 and 3, is that, giving students funding is one thing, but allowing them to have continuous support and development while they're at university gives them the best chance of success. And at the end of the day, I know there's a BEE side to this, but we really want to make sure that we're giving the learners something that is as impactful as possible. And from a company perspective, I think sometimes, it does get lost within the BEE space, is that it is genuinely making a massive impact to students who do not have the opportunity to study at institutions. That what companies are doing, that does sometimes seem like a bit of a grudge purchase, is that they are really supporting people who would not have this opportunity otherwise. So that's just my little plea to the people who are from the HR and L&D backgrounds who are spending their money, to just recognize that they are doing an amazing thing for learners. Even when they don't always see exactly what they're doing. So there's my thank yous. But also, and I think that this last point here is important, is there are a lot of degrees. Again, we want to create as much impact for the learners as possible. There's a lot of degrees that, are not getting people jobs. They're going out of these degrees and they're not getting jobs after. We want, education is absolutely vital, but we also want these learners who they're on the bursaries because they're financially struggling, to get jobs after. And that's really where it's important to start giving them start sponsoring bursaries to highly employable degrees that are in demand. And that's, I've got to give a little Red and Yellow plug, but that's why our bursaries work, because our students are quality, and most of the time get jobs afterwards. And I think that's a very powerful part, and something that I'm very proud of.